This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming to another edition of movie reviews and observations number 139. This week, the first movie I saw was Old Henry, and it's, about a 90-something minute Western. And the problem is I've seen a lot of Westerns or movies where there's like people wearing cowboy hats, there's gunfights, they got drug cartel, the Mexican border, so they're cowboy-esque, they're Western adjacent. Or I've seen some movies that are obviously takes place in the Old West, which is why it's called a Western movie. That's that genre. But they haven't been very good. I will say this, Tim Blake Nelson, the longtime character actor, really surprised me how good of a movie it was. There was an interesting plot to the movie, an interesting, reveal, all these other stuff that made me go, wow, this is not bad. It's a pretty good movie. I will say this, Trace Adkins, now that I've seen him in a movie 100%, I can now remember a movie I saw him in, and The Bad Show Monarch, should not be acting. Continue to do country music, because obviously Monarch's a bad show. Stephen Dorff has been a good guy, and he's been a bad guy. He's been a detective cop, and then he's been a bad guy, and he was pretty good in this movie. I don't know anyone else in this movie, but overall, Old Henry was a pretty good Western. Next movie I watched was Redeeming Love, where, if you look here, the sticker here, it's blocking off the main actress named Abigail Cohen next to Tom Lewis. But then it says Nina Dobrev, Logan Marshall Green, Eric Dane, and Famke Janssen. And the box that the library got from their vendor, if you say there, it says 1 hour and 35 minutes. And I wanted to watch it because I thought, cool, it's a short movie. This movie is like 2 hours and like 15 minutes. It's not just a 2-hour movie, it's more than 2 hours, and you still got credits. And this is supposed to be like during the gold rush, like that part of time where people were just settling in the West, and Famke Janssen wasted her time being in charge of like prostitutes, and Eric Dane wants to own prostitutes, and Logan Marshall Green is the main character's brother and stuff. And I only remember him from being in the bad television show Big Sky recently, where he was a dating interest of one of the main characters in last season. So now I can say I see him in a movie. Nina Dobrev, she's been in plenty of TV shows and movies, and I find her to be a good actress, whatnot. So I think this movie is going to be about Nina Dobrev, Eric Dane. No, Eric Dane plays a despicable person in the movie. But it's about these two people. This dude who's has a wife. He's got a farm. He's very religious. And he has a crush on one of these prostitutes. But the movie takes so long for you to get to present day between the two characters that you're like, why am I watching this movie and worrying about Nina Dobrev and all these other characters? If it's going to take you so long to get to the actual plot of the movie, and some people say it's like a religious movie, some say it's like a timepiece movie, it's a romance movie. All I'm going to tell you is, there's no need for a movie to ever be longer than 2 hours unless it's a James Bond superhero movie, an action-adventure movie like one of the movies I watched this week where there's stuff actually happening, or a super good science fiction movie. Unless it's a biopic on a very famous person and it's got to be a 2-hour movie, you're learning something about the person. This is just junk. It should be just as it says, your best-selling novel. Stay as a novel. Because the acting was horrible. The writing was horrible. It took forever to get to the whole point of the movie, which was, I want to marry this prostitute and get her out of that life, but she doesn't want to be there, and God knows how many times she left him and then came back, and blah, 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 and he's still waiting on her, blah, 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 blah. And I feel like Nina Dobrev, Eric Dane, and Famke Janssen waste their time. The other actors, like Logan Marshall Green, who I've only seen on one TV show, they definitely probably need the money. Then I watched the movie Surge, and Ben Whishaw has been in a lot of good movies, including the last franchise of James Bond movies, as the guy who does all the tech and stuff. And the saving grace of this movie is it's barely an hour and 40 minutes. It's a 90-something-minute movie. Basically, he has a mundane life where he's got no friends, no girlfriend. He works at the airport, and then something happens at the airport and at his parents' house, and he goes ballistic and starts doing whatever the heck he wants, getting people's faces, stealing money, doing this other stuff, hooking up with a girl, doing all these things he hasn't done before. And it's basically like Joker. Not like the comic book Joker, but the one with Joaquin Phoenix, where just something snapped and he just completely went crazy off the deep end and doing all these weird things that nobody can understand. And I'm just watching a movie like, what the heck is going on? It's all just stupid and bad. I don't know how it won some awards. Like they said it was played at Sundance and New Directors Film and Panorama, whatever it is. But this was a horrible movie. If you're going to watch a movie about a dude going off the deep end and being crazy, just go watch the Joker movie. That was actually a good movie. Sorry, Ben Whishaw, that was horrible. Then I watched India Sweets and Spices, and I didn't know really anybody in the movie. But this movie is similar to Your Family, let's say if they're like a rich white family, they come from this esteem, and if you don't, go to the right school and do this profession and marry the person that they think you should marry, not like an arranged marriage, but you should do it like in the American world, then you're considered like the black sheep of the family, and it's everything you do is wrong. This is about an Indian family who I wasn't sure where it took place, but it looked like it takes place in New Jersey, New York, like a rich part of town where the parents and all the other parents are throwing parties, and even if they're not related to you, they're like your relatives, and you go to them, and it's like a high-class thing, and this girl goes to school, I guess, in the West Coast, and, there's a dude that she's supposed to, they say get married, but then she meets someone at the small shop, and it's like an interesting love story, but away, and I thought this was clever, it was nice, it was cute. I was surprised after watching those two bad movies in a row after the Western, that, wow, this movie's charming as a set of back, I like it, I laughed a few moments. There was some interesting family drama, that you can relate to with your parents and your uncles and aunts and your family and your siblings. And overall, being, an hour and 41 minutes with credits, so it's a 90-something minute movie, it's not super boring. It goes pretty quick. I liked it. Thought it was a clever take on, like, an Indian family and things like that. So, yeah, I would say definitely India's Sweets and Spices was a quality movie. Then I watched the movie Rumble because the other night I was out till, like, 10 for religious reasons. So I didn't watch a movie that night. But Rumble is basically like a WWE movie where it's about the world's monster like federation of like fighting and network where these monsters fight. There's like a famous monster, but he and his trainer disappeared in space or whatever it is, and the town is picking up the pieces. His daughter and his wife and all this other stuff. And the big fighter decides to leave because he wants to get out of the city because he's in the shadows. And Terry Crews voiced that monster. Charles Barkley supposedly in this movie, but he was barely in it. He voiced the monster who disappeared. And Stephen A. Smith voiced the rambunctious announcer. And Jimmy Tataro was like the color analyst. And you had some WWE people voice characters. You had like Phil Lamar and a few other people like Tara Strongest says, like career good veteran voice actors and actresses are in this movie. And some other actors here and there that like voiced specific monsters or character. And the woman who played Randall's wife on This Is Us voiced the mother, and the girl, the Middle Eastern girl from Broken Hearts Gallery was voicing the main character, and it's a PG movie, so it's a lot of children's jokes and cliche stuff, and it was like a good mix of science fiction and children animation and sports movie with underdog story, and Will Arnett, who's like one of the kings of voice acting, even though he's a very good regular on-screen actor, really did a good job voicing the main monster. I liked it. It was enjoyable. Some of it was emotional with the family drama and winning all this other stuff. So I thought, you know what? Whatever studio made this, and it's barely 90 minutes, and there is just like, a post-credit scene, so don't go away too quickly, that I will recommend this to any child who wants to watch it, and any family as a whole, and adults should watch this, because it's actually pretty good, despite people thinking it may not be. Then I watched a long movie, which I do on Saturdays, and I watched The Kingsman. This is the number 3. It's a weird thing to have the first 2 movies and not make a third, but then the third is actually like a prequel. So they went all the way back to how the Kingsmen were, started. Ralph Fiennes is a good actor. The black guy in this movie right here, he's been in countless TV shows and movies. He's a very good character actor. The woman was good in the movie. It was, there's a lot of other people, like Daniel Brohl seems to always play villains if it's not Marvel. It's other movie, Gemma Arterton is really good. Tom Hollander in this movie, Matthew Good. His name, I can't pronounce it, but it's Dimjan Hansu, whatever. Aaron Taylor Johnson, the dude from Kick-Ass and the Avengers movie. He was in this. So there's actors spread out this movie that are playing like the bad guys and playing the good guy and all these other stuff. And I thought it was well put together. And obviously, as I mentioned, movies don't need to be more than 2 hours. But this movie was exactly 2 hours, credits, post-credit scene, more credits. And that's how it should be. If the movie's exactly 2 hours and the rest is just like credits or post-credits, that's totally fine. This movie had enough action, had enough interesting plot to know what the bad guys are doing and how World War II how World War II happened and all the stuff, even if it's fictionalized. People like to romanticize World War II or any of the wars like World War One and all the characters and bad guys involved, like the Russians and the Chinese, the Japanese, whatever it is, Castro, whatever it is. I thought it was pretty good. As I mentioned, 2 hours long, that's fine in these typical action films. And it was a little sad, the movie, but overall, I thought it was a very good movie. I don't know if there's going to be a sequel based on this prequel, and there'll be Kingsman number 4, or if they're ever going to make a Kingsman number 3 with Taron Egerton. But either way, I thought it was a good addition to just the franchise as a whole because I really liked the first one. So I will say this. I think the best movies that I watched were that I actually was able to watch 4 quality movies this week. Kids Movie Rumble, in the family movie India Sweets and Spices, Kingsman's number, 3 if you call it, and the Western Old Henry. All 4 of them are watchable movies and enjoyable to sit through. I would just say, do not watch Surge unless you're really obsessed with Ben Whishaw, and this should just be erased and just destroyed from history, redeeming love. Thanks again for listening to another just sort of movie reviews and observations number 139 for On the Radar Entertainment Blog. I'm Radar. See you guys next time.